So most of the work is actually being done on the vocal bus. So we've got isotope vinyl that we've already got in. The first thing in the chain is the BX SSL console, and this is the G series console, although it's got set on the E series dynamics. Don't know why. These things are great. They really are. BX did a fantastic job with these things. Brainworks did a great job with these things, and they do make your mixing a lot easier. I don't know if am I doing anything with this at all? I'm actually using the channel strip EQ instead of the Pro Q. That's weird. I'm pulling out a bit of 8.8, about 880. Pulling out what? About 2.3 dB. Don't know why. I am. I'm using the black knobs, not the orange knobs, but the black knob. Don't know why. What else is going on here? And I've actually got a little bit of compression going on as well. I've got this set, at a very fast attack, very quick release, presumably about 1.5 ratio. So that's just dealing with the transients on the vocal line a little bit. And I've got it on a bit of a mix. No, I haven't. I've got it. Usually I mix those things. So, that's just taking out a little bit of the transients on the vocal line. And that's it. It's not doing anything else than that. It's just taking out some of the peaks. You can see the gain reduction down here. I don't know if that's in frame. It should be. It's sort of hitting about 3 dB or something. Who knows? If I take it out. I grew up here on the inside, and I cannot wait. The EQ set pre-dynamic because it sounded better. No real reason on that. So that's that. And then next up, we've got the Sheps Omnichannel. This is very good, this thing. So what's this doing? I'm using the compressor, and I'm using a little bit of saturation as well. There's a lot of saturation on this track. The compressor is set to a FET style compressor, so that's like an 1178, I guess. I used to have the UAD 1178. I sold all the UAD plugins, but for me, this sounds. It's a little bit more modern. It's a little cleaner than the UAD 1178. I prefer it on vocals. It doesn't quite have that same attacky kind of texture that the UAD had, but it's not too bad. Let's see where we are on this. This is where having two monitors is a good idea, because I can't tell what I'm doing. Here we go. That was 25 you can see the gain reduction up here is like in excess of 5 dB. That's way too much. Like, that's a lot. That's a lot of gain reduction. It's set at a high ratio, I think, 12:1, about 40 millisecond attack, whatever, 340 release, and it's set at a threshold of about -26. That's like crazy amounts of gain reduction. And that's just in the verses. In the choruses, I'm actually tightening up I'm actually bringing the threshold more aggressively in there, so it's taking out even more in the choruses. It's way too much, but it sounds cool, so hey, I kept it. And there's a little bit of wet dry mix on that. It's about 94%, whatever. I like doing that. I like dialing in a little bit either way. I find it just helps make the mix a little bigger. It's not really parallel compression or anything like. It just helps give a bit of size to the mix, I find. You just dial in little bits either way, a couple of percent one way or the other. I find it helps. And then we've got a bit of saturation, barely anything. 7 saturation. Left to God, and I only have no saturation to blame. With saturation. And I can't forget that night. It's giving it a bit more bite. It's just giving it a little bite. That's all it's doing. Yep, I haven't even bothered to gain match the Omnichannel coming out, because that's just how I go, man. I'd usually use multi-band compression on vocals, but with this there's no point, because there isn't really any multi to band, as it were. It's all just pretty much in a similar area. Isotope vinyl, if you're interested, is set at a 1930s emulation. I tried 1950s, but it just didn't go far enough. This is pretty standard for me. This just works. I tend to leave all this stuff alone, so it's just over here, and it's doing what it's doing. One of the problems with telephoning a voice like this or lo-fiing a voice like this is it tends to make everything sound very thin. So what I like to do is I like to put something subtle, Devil Deluxe, on it to thicken it up. So till the day that's without it. I die. I've owned up the best I can. God knows I'm a better man. No, that's not good. Than the reckless kid that walked in 25 ago. Nothing. And I don't know there it is. Another life. Yep. I grew up and here this is blended in at 2.1%. Yeah, 2.1%. Let's just inside, and I cannot wait to stretch my legs when my father calls. Tasty. And walk out of this place. That's the setting that Arthur would have it at. That's the Arthur vocal setting right there. But that's because he is a genius. That's so we're really putting in 2.1, not a lot. Back here, this is the wimpy English setting. Arthur would have gone for the full German, 68%. There's a little bit of darkness dialed into it, apparently. Don't know what that means. Quite a bit of crunch, some crunch, and a bit of crush. All it's doing is it's just thickening up the vocal line. That's all it's really doing. I should really put this on loop, shouldn't I? Here we go. Let me put this on a loop so I'm not messing about with it. So again, you can hear without it, it's thin. God knows I'm a better man. It's just giving it something. And I highly recommend using Devil Lock for that kind of thing. You wouldn't necessarily think of it, but you put it in a little bit, and it does an awful lot for you. It just helps to thicken it up. And that's a big part of the sound, actually. Those two things, Isotope and Devil Lock together, is a very big part of what's going on here. Then we've got the Klanghelm, I think it's pronounced. Possibly. Das Klanghelm. This thing, kid that walked in 25 ago. That's without it. And I don't know another life. I grew up. This thing's great. It's on the tube emulation. Sometimes the desk is better. I didn't know desk came with saturation, but apparently they do. It's not on very high. It's on about 2 and a bit. 28% mix. I am automating it from verse to chorus. I'll come back to that later when I talk about automation. This thing's great on vocals. I love it. I'm sure it's great on other things, but I actually only use it on vocals because I love it so much on lead vocals. That's it. And I just want that and that alone on lead vocals. Because I just want that saturation on one thing. My lead vocals sounds great. Love it. It's like €30. It's really great stuff. I'm probably horribly underusing it by only using it on my vocals, but there you go. And then we get into a little bit more kind of functional stuff. We've got the MV2. Have you heard of it? Warren's favorite plugin. The M stands for Marvelously. It's the Marvelously V2. And it's just doing a little bit to tighten the vocals up. Up here on the inside, and I cannot wait to stretch my legs when my father calls. I've owned up the best I can. God knows and it's just tightening the vocal up. This is what I call a dig your own grave plugin. It's great, but if you use it too much, it will trash the schnizzle out of your mixes. I kind of have a rule of thumb with this, which is I pretty much just use it down the center. It's good for vocals, bass lines, and snares. Yes, you can use it on other things. Of course you can, but use it very sparingly. For me, if you're using on the vocal line, don't use it on the bass. If you're using it on the bass, don't use it on the snare kind of thing. Because you just want the effect of it on one of them. It brings up particular frequencies. They're great. They catch your ear. They bring things up in the mix. But too many of them, your mix gets really trashy. And if you use it too much, you'll just lose the effect of it. And you can hear immediately with this, you can hear the problem with it, which is it's bringing up some nasty frequencies because of the isotope vinyl, possibly also because of the copious large amounts of other saturation I've got in it. It's bringing up some nasty frequencies. And that kind of brings me back to what I was saying, which is when you lo-fi something like this, when you put a heavily affected vocal, you're going to have some problems. So if we listen without it, I'm a better man than the reckless kid. Yep. So you can hear it's a little bit more dynamic. It's a little softer. If I bring it in, it's going to feel less dynamic, a little tough, a little kind of harder, a little bit more attacky. But listen to what happens to some of the frequencies. Kid that walked in 25 ago. And I don't know another life. I grew up here on the inside. Can you hear these starting to get some nasty frequencies that are starting to come up? They're only just coming up. It's not like a big deal, but once that hits the limiter when you're mastering it, you're going to have a problem. So that brings us to the last sort of three plugins we have. We have a Pro Q, the Wave Sibilance, and the FabFilter DS. And they're really all doing the same thing at this point. They're managing frequencies. So the Pro Q is doing a couple of things here. And I cannot wait to stretch my legs when my father calls. I'm using a lot of dynamic EQ, mainly because it's my new toy, so I like using it. And we're pulling out a bit of 622, a bit of 2000, 2217, about nearly 5K there. I've also got this wild and wacky dip at about 3729. That's because there was a particular frequency coming up, which was a bit weird. Let's see if I can. I've owned up the best I can. God knows I'm a better man than the reckless kid that walked in. It's just cleaning it up. If I take it all out. 25 ago. So it's not in now, it's bypassed. And I don't know another life. I grew up here on the... That should feel nicer on your ear, if that makes sense. It may not feel quite as presency. It's a weird thing. The very frequencies that make something present and attacky and draws your ear in are the exact same frequencies that will absolutely do your nut in and sound horrible. So you've really got to be careful about how you're dialing these things in and out. And some of this may feel a little too much for you when you're listening to it now, but it hasn't been through that mastering limiter yet. So some of this is probably a little heavy-handed at the moment, but it's because I know it's going to go through the mastering limiter. And it's because once I did put it through the mastering limiter, I then had to open the mix up again and deal with some things, but I'll come back to that in a bit. So that's doing quite a lot to smooth things down. It's also taking a little bit of low out. I like doing this with low shells on things. I like just having the low being a bit more responsive. There's a lot of low mid in this mix. I really dug my own grave with the arrangement. So I had to manage low mid a lot. There's like in the choruses, there's like a piano and 3 organs. And that's before you even get to the backing vocals coming in the second chorus. It's stupid. It's a stupid amount of stuff. So I had to do a lot of management with low mid. So we've got that going on. Then we've got Wave Sibilance. Wave Sibilance is a one-trick pony. It does one thing. It does it really well. I've never found any other use for it. It's not like other DSs where you can use them on other instruments and get them to do other things. I've never used this on anything else. Please, if you have, let me know. I'd be fascinated to know how you're doing it. If we start with it in bypass,
inside, and I cannot wait to stretch my legs when my father calls. I've owned up the best I can. God knows I'm a better man than the reckless kid that was.
It's not doing a lot. And really with this sort of thing, because this is just doing a sort of broad strokes kind of thing, it's really just about being able to feel it as much as being able to hear it. If you can hear it too much, it's probably doing too much. And then backing that up, I have the FabFilter DS, which is set to a ×4 oversample, which I do recommend you use, particularly if you're working with vocals. It's a very good plugin, this. Now, this is usually I would have this going in the sort of 10K region to deal with it, all the SE stuff. I don't have that with this. I have it actually set between 2.5K and 5K. Now, that's because the Pro Q is already doing a lot of work up that sort of part of the world, and because Wave Sibilance is doing a lot of that work. So I don't need to be doing that with this as well, because that would be overkill. If we start with this in bypass.
I walked in 25 ago, and I don't know another life. I grew up here on the inside, and I cannot wait to stretch my legs when my father calls.
Right. So let me see if I can just find that bit for you. Let's see if we can find that bit. There's a bit when David says, and I cannot wait to stretch my legs when my father calls. When he's saying stretch, you get this sort of noise that comes up. Let's see if I can find it.
Oh, another life. I grew up here on the inside, and I cannot wait to stretch.
Okay. So if we go about that. Like that. I think that'll work. So let me just check that's right.
Wait to stretch my and
okay, let me just there. All right. So let's start with it in bypass, and this is what it sounds like in bypass, no plugin.
And I cannot wait to stretch my legs when my
All right. It's not too bad, but when you start pulling up on that mastering limiter, it's going to start giving you problems. Put the plugin back in.
And I cannot wait to stretch my legs when my and I cannot wait to stretch my legs when my and I can.
If I take it out again.
I cannot wait to stretch my legs when my and I cannot wait to stretch my legs when my and I
I'll just put it back in again.
I cannot wait to stretch my legs when my and I cannot wait to stretch my.
And you see, it's taking about 1.6 dB out. We'll take 1.6 dB out. It's just doing that. It's doing that throughout the entire track. It's just doing little things like that. That's all it's doing.
Stretch my legs when my
I think I've got it automated. I think, have I not? If I go up to the right place. Yes, there's a fair whack of automation here. Okay, I'll come back to that. So there's a little auto going on there too. And that's all that's really doing, is it's just dealing with that bit. And again, that's not to do with how David's singing. That's to do with what Isotope Vinyl is doing to his voice. So this is all about managing the lo-fi effect.